Spider-Man Homecoming is directed by John Watts and marks the first collaboration between Sony Pictures and Marvel Studios. It is the third time that Spider-Man has been re-envisioned for the screen in the last decade, and does Tom Holland stand up as Peter Parker / Spider-Man? Yeah, of course he does. Several months after the events of Captain America Civil War, Peter Parker is in his internship program with Tony Stark, aka Iron Man, via an internship program which is going to make a really good drinking game when this movie comes out on Blu-ray. Take a shot every time someone says Tony Stark internship program. You'll be drunk by halfway through the movie, if that. Totally worth it though. So Tom Holland plays Peter Parker, aka Spider-Man. He's still in school. He's 15 years old and is basically still high off the events of Civil War and capturing Captain America's shield, and basically now wants to become a fully fledged Avenger. So basically Tony Stark puts him under the protection of Happy, played by Jon Favreau, who you might remember from previous Iron Man films. And he basically is the connection between Tony Stark and Iron Man, kind of plays the not really mentor, but like the guardian, I guess. And basically Peter loses himself and tries to do all these big heroic acts, and Tony says to him, you just need to be a friendly neighborhood Spider-Man. And it starts out really well. The action was there, the comedy is there, and Tom Holland plays his part perfectly so good. I did like that Iron Man wasn't in it too much. There was just enough for fans to be like, yeah, there's Iron Man, but not enough to be overbearing, which is one of my concerns, was that this would be OTT and I wouldn't want to watch it anymore. But fortunately, not the case. So Aunt May is played this time by Marissa Tomei, and for some reason, every male in this movie has to comment on how hot she is. And so Tony Stark did it. In Civil War, that's fine. He does it again in this movie. You're pushing it. And then by the time the fourth person says it, it borders on sexism. And it just made me go, who's writing this crap? Really? We can blame Sony for that, alright? Alright. What we can't blame Sony for is turning Spider-Man into another buffling Marvel buffoon. Now I know we're probably going to cop a lot of hate, because yes, Spider-Man is a fun and comic-y funny character. He is. But go back to Spider-Man 1 and Spider-Man 2 Maguire. There's no depth there. Anytime there was a villain in this movie, anytime there was a scene of danger, there was no sense of danger. It just felt meh. And I have two theories about this, so stick with me. My first theory is, are we reaching superhero saturation? We're getting 2 films a year from Marvel Studios, 2 films a year from DC Comics. More are coming from Fox. Other studios are getting in on it. Is it too much? Are we just tired of seeing the world in danger again and again and again? Is it too much? I think maybe it is. I think maybe it is. And this is probably what made me not like this movie so much. I still enjoyed it. I still liked it. I just felt as a movie, it just didn't work. It definitely felt rushed. You could feel the studio pushing this out, and that was a big detriment to the story. The story wasn't fulfilling, it wasn't satisfying, it was just there. The parts that I did enjoy was when Tom Holland was being Peter Parker, and as soon as they started to explore Peter Parker, they yank him back to Spider-Man, and I was in two minds, because I liked the fact that they went, okay, so he's this person and that person. How's it gonna work? And I get that, and I enjoyed that. but it was jarring and it didn't feel natural and it didn't work for me. Some of the other characters didn't really work. Michael Keaton, I didn't enjoy. I was a bit disappointed that it was a robot suit and not the Vulture from the comics with powers. I feel like everyone's trying to take the metahuman thing away from comics and make it more about the everyday person, and that just doesn't work for me. It didn't work for Michael Keaton, it doesn't work for the Vulture. Next. That being said, there is a good little twist that they put into this movie that I didn't see coming, and the people that I went with were like, what? So that was good. So, some credit. Now, Peter Parker's best friend is Ned, and he is played by the hilarious Jacob Batalon, who I hope we see a lot more of, because he was the funny part of this movie. Him and Peter, their relationship, their friendship, their comedy, it just worked. He's one of the only people in Peter's life that knows that he is Spider-Man. They have this great connection. I know you've all seen the Lego drop joke in the trailer. It's still funny when you see it on screen, trying on the Spider-Man suit. It's all there, and he has a lot of gags that really did work. Zendaya, who everyone was a bit about, plays Michelle. Now, I'm not going to ruin it, but something happens at the end of the movie that made me furious. And she was kind of like, she was in all these scenes, but it was literally like a couple of lines. She'd be like, I'm at the prom, what of it? And that was it. Like, what? They do this school decathlon thing, and she's like, I don't want to go to the Washington Monument, it was built by slaves. Hair flip. And it just, there was no substance, it was just like flashes of her. So I don't know if the next movie she'll be in a lot more. I pretty much know that for a fact. But it wasn't enough to make me want to see this character again, which I thought was a bit disappointing, because I like her as an actress. Donald Glover was in it for a total of 2 scenes, topping 5 minutes. Again, underused. The main woman in this film, Liz, played by Laura Harrier, was actually really well. Her and Peter have this on again, off again chemistry, and it was kind of building to something. And then at the end of the movie, it just, I don't know, I don't have a word for these hand motions, but it just went, it was like building, and then it just went, typical Marvel. It didn't explore anything or do a lot of explaining. It just went, I'm moving out of town, goodbye, forever, see you later, Peter, done. And you're like, what? Oh, okay. Now, action-wise, okay. This is probably going to be long, so I'm going to try and condense it as much as I can. A lot of the fight scenes happen at night with the Vulture. There's a scene involving a helicopter, there's a scene over a lake, and there's a lot of tumbling, a lot of shooting, a lot of firing. And there was one point in the movie where all you can see is like black tumble. And I was like, what? That's not even a shot. Did they watch this back properly? Did they edit it properly? We're gonna blame Sony for that. So it just was jarring. It was really hard to see who was fighting who and what was going on and who got the shot in. And it wasn't like a quick shot, it was the whole scene. So 2-3 minutes in, I was over it. I was like, I need some light, I can't see. P.S. How much better is the lighting today? Thanks to my good friend Anita for the light. I wanted to love this movie. I really felt like this was the time that Spider-Man was going to come home. He was going to be part of the MCU. He was going to have amazing solo films. Not that he hasn't before. Spider-Man 1, Spider-Man 2. So I kind of was just disappointed. And that brings me to another point. Wonder Woman, for me, lifted the bar of superhero films. She literally picked it up, put it on her shoulders and went, what of it? And so I feel like watching this, where There is a prime example. There is a scene where Vulture shoots one of his henchmen. And there was no purpose behind it. There was no feeling of like A, pure evil, I just killed you, or B, regret, or anything. It was just bang. Oh, I thought this was the anti-gravity gun. And actually no one in the cinema laughed. And it just felt like, with these superhero films now, right, a lot of people die. It's a fact. And when people die in Marvel movies, there's no real feeling or care, and the only exception is in Avengers, when Phil Coulson dies. That is the only Avengers movie, that is the only Marvel movie where someone's died where you felt gravitas. And I'm talking Marvel Cinematic Universe. So don't come at me with Logan, because that's a whole other story. And that also brings me to the point as well. It's not just Wonder Woman that's lifted the bar. Logan lifted the bar. And we've got all these amazing pieces of work coming out. And then we get something like this, and it's just like, I honestly have no desire to ever watch Spider-Man Homecoming again. I feel like maybe they felt it was necessary as a marketing thing to bring him into the MCU, which would make sense. And there were some funny moments. There were some good moments. Overall, though, it's not the Spider-Man film we've been waiting for. I think Spider-Man, whatever the next one is, will be the Spider-Man film that we've been waiting for. This is a great introduction. It's amazing performances by both Tom Holland and Robert Downey Jr. They play off each other really well. Even Jon Favreau is really great in that mix. So I'm not taking that away. Tom Holland is an amazing Spider-Man and definitely proves himself in this film. But the story, not that great. The idea of having Vulture take alien parts from battles that the Avengers have had and craft his suit and his weapons with them is a good idea. But the story didn't back that idea up enough to work. Cinematography-wise, it was a bit of a mess. The action scenes were dark and blurry, and not just superhero dark and blurry. They were dark and blurry to the point where you couldn't even see what was going on. That didn't work for me. So I know I'm ragging on it, and I think because I expect more, that's why I'm a little bit disappointed. Overall, Spider-Man Homecoming didn't deliver on its promise to be the ultimate Spider-Man movie. And I know there are Marvel fans out there who think it is. Great. But as a film, from a film perspective, it didn't work. I think the next one will be amazing. I think he'll be amazing in the Avengers. Great actor, just not the right story. So I give Spider-Man Homecoming 3 stars out of 5. And for all things Spider-Man Homecoming, and if you want to read a positive review, jump onto our website. We do have other reviews, novastreamnetwork.com, other people who did love it. So jump on there, have a read, come back, give us a comment, let us know what you thought. Did you love it? Did you hate it? Were your expectations met? Do you think we're in superhero saturation? Leave a comment and let me know. I'm Alaisdair. Keep it locked on novastreamnetwork.com.
I'm just kidding, I don't care. Bye.
There's a ton of other subsystems in here, but they're all disabled by the training wheels protocol.
I'm sick of Mr. Stark treating me like a kid.
But you are a kid.
Yeah, a kid who can stop a bus with his bare hands.